right, Michigan, Penn State. Gator, my gut's telling me this game is a bit of a coin flip. I think it's going to be a late fourth quarter game, can go either direction. What's your gut telling you on this one?
Doug, I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
It's a late quarter game, and I think go either direction. No, I mean, I think it's going to be tight. This is a real test for Michigan. I know that you like to think the Iowa game is a test, and that's your opinion. Mine, not so much. But this Penn State's a good team. I don't know how good Penn State is, but it's a good team. You can't dispute that they're good. They are good. And this will tell us a lot about how good Michigan is. If Michigan can go out and dominate against the Nittany Lions, great. Then really looking forward to the rest of the season if you're a Michigan fan, right? But these two teams statistically mirror each other a little bit. You know, they don't give up the yards on the ground. They're both able to get yards on the ground. They don't give up points. There's a little bit of a gap there. Michigan has scored more points than Penn State has, but their total yards on offense, they're not that far apart. They're like, 15 yards apart. So both offenses are quite capable of putting the ball in the end zone, scoring some points, but they've been able to do it a lot with the running game. And if they're both stingy in the running game, which is real and which is a facade?
So just for clarity's sake, I did think the Iowa game was a big test for the Michigan offense, not as much the Michigan defense. And, going on the road on the Big Ten, you take your W's when you can get them. But I thought it was a test for the Michigan offense. And the Maryland game was a test for the Michigan defense. But as it stands right now, Penn State's clearly the best team they play. And Penn State's gone on the road and won at Purdue and gone on the road and won at Auburn. And they got some really talented players. Sean Clifford is a tough, really, really good college quarterback. Everything doesn't have to be measured in terms of what your pro prospects are. I think in college, sixth-year guy, he was the guy that I guess technically ran off Will Levis, right? So
right.
He's tough. He can run. His toughness in that Auburn game, did you see the hit he took at the beginning of the Auburn game?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was as nasty and brutal a clean college hit as I have seen. And that hit was the beginning of a sequence that I do want to talk about, but he played. It didn't and played well after getting on their first possession of the game just smoked. So I have respect for Sean Clifford. And, he can go over 1,000 career yards rushing in this game. He's setting all kinds of Penn State passing records. They have a great tight end. I think the Strange kid is really, really good. And I'm really excited to see this Nicholas Singleton, the freshman running back, because it looks like he can really go.
7 yards of carry is pretty good.
Yes. Defensively, Michigan's missing Nakai Hill-Green, and this would be a game where I think he'd really make a difference. But I want to see how well this defense does. The run defense in particularly, how good is it? Can they slow down Singleton? The pass defense, the rush and the coverage. The crazy thing about Michigan's pass rush is they have 22 sacks on the year. Okay, they're pacing ahead of last year. And I think all of their statistics might be a little bit skewed by the schedule, and I'm willing to acknowledge that. But the one thing that's happened, when you get into the Big Ten, even if you're not a great Big Ten team, I'm going to assume you have a better offensive line than Hawaii, a better offensive line than UConn, and a better offensive line than Colorado State, which was loaded with transfers. But if you, in the fourth quarter of the last 3 games, Big Ten games, Michigan has 7 of their 22 sacks. They have really cranked up the pressure. So when they get a lead and their defensive line can pin their ears back, they've been pretty good. And when I sat down and I really did the deep dive into Penn State, the one thing I walked away from, and maybe this isn't fair, but the one thing I've walked away from for like the 10th consecutive year is I'm not sold on their offensive line. And I feel like that's been the case at Penn State forever. And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not sold on their offensive line.
Well, we'll see if they can pass protect. And you mentioned that Michigan's got a third of their sacks in the fourth quarter. It's a nice thing to do for them.
In the last 3 games.
In the last 3 games, yeah. And Mike Morris has been a big reason why he's. It was just there was one series. Was it against Indiana? It was one series. He just shut it all down. It was over.
It was Iowa. It was the Iowa.
Iowa. Yeah. It was really quite impressive what he did. I don't know if he had 2 sacks or he had 1 sack and heavy pressure, and somebody else got him. It was lights out. When you thought you had a chance, it was over with. And that's what that defense has been able to do in the fourth quarter when anything got a little bit tight. Like against Indiana, things started to look, oh, wait, Indiana's hanging with them. No, they're not. It's over with. Defense shuts them down, and then the offense takes care of business. This is also a big game for Blake Corum, and let's see what Blake Corum really is. He's had a heck of a season right now, and there's been some whispers of Heisman talk, which I think is way premature because he hasn't had his signature game yet. This could be a signature game. You don't get a signature game against Maryland or UConn. You get a signature game when it's against Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State. Here's an opportunity, and he's quite capable of putting up huge numbers. This could be a monster game for Blake Corum.
This is our question for Michigan fans, and you mentioned Blake Corum there, and that kind of leads to what I wonder how fans feel. Things adjust as a game goes on, and how a game is trending, you have to make adjustments. But going into this game, is this a Blake Corum game, or is this a J.J. McCarthy game? Obviously, both are critical. But if you're going to put it on the shoulders of one or the other right out of the gate, is the game plan to unleash Blake Corum or unleash J.J. McCarthy?